mining and logging. Now, by the time I came along, it was more a part of the history than their economy. But what it left behind was a whole lot of rock and a whole lot of trees, and for a curious kid that loved adventure, it was the perfect playground. So, and where I grew up, there was, it would snow about 8 months of the year and dump about 250 inches on it. So it was a very chilly spring. And it wouldn't be surprising on an April afternoon when my sister and I would dress in our winter gear and go out exploring. Our favorite place to explore was at the top of one of the bluffs that overlooked our neighborhood below. And in order to get there, we had to go up the steep hill at the entrance of our subdivision and then go up the winding trail to the wooded area at top. And in order for us to get back home, we'd have to take the long way. It would have taken us like 20 minutes, but for my 7-year-old legs, that was like forever. So we decided that we were gonna find a new way down on what we called the tall side of the bluff. What we needed was a clear view of the sides of the bluff to find this elusive trail, and we finally found it in a gap between the trees that was caused by this big, giant, flat rock. Now, it may have been about 45 degrees outside, but in the shady spots, you could still see piles of snow, which was on this rock. And as we approached, you could see how high up we were because you could see the tips of the trees that edged just above the roof line of the 2-story houses below. So my sister took one look at that and looked at me and said, "You go first." And I said, "Okay." I was 7, so of course I did. And I took one step onto that rock, heard the snow crunch underneath my boot, and decided that maybe it was best if I sat down. So as I was inching my way forward, I suddenly started to pick up speed. See, I hadn't worn my snow pants, and I didn't want my pants to get wet when I sat down, but my coat went down to my knees, which made a very slick surface between me and that snow. And so when I started to slide, I started to frantically move my hands backwards, trying to slow my speed, only to reveal the ice between the rock and me. So just as I was about to flip over on my belly and spread my hands and feet wide, praying that I would come to a stop, there was this firm and insistent voice in my head that said, "Don't fight it, go with it." So without hesitation, I thought, well, if I'm gonna go over the edge, I'm gonna face it straight on. And I threw my hands out in front of me, and that picked up my speed and launched me off the edge. Now, I don't know what it looked like to anybody else, but in my mind, it was the perfect arc, worthy of Olympic gold. And just as quickly, I turned into the Wile E. Coyote who chased the Roadrunner off the edge of a cliff. And it took a whole lot less grace and glory, gravity gripped me, and I plummeted. Good news, my keister came in contact with one of those trees, and it broke my fall. And I, in turn, broke every single branch on my way down. Now, I must have flip-flopped down this tree, bouncing from my belly to my back, because my view alternated from the ground to the sky. And along the way, I began to wonder, what part am I going to land on? But before I could finish the thought, I came to a halt, pretty much in the same position I was when I left, which was my legs straight out. Now my arms were at my side, my palms were down, and I hit that ground with a thud, and all the wind got knocked out of me. And there was this peaceful moment where I tried to decide if I was still alive or in heaven. And then suddenly the urge to breathe kicked in, and I inhaled a bunch of air, and just as I was about to exhale, I paused. I thought, I should probably cry right about now, but I don't want to, because I am mad. I don't even know who I'm mad at. All I know is I didn't want to give anybody who may have seen what had happened the satisfaction of watching me wail. So I stood up, brushed myself off, looked up, and there was my sister, pretty much in the same place she was when I left her side. Only now her arms were flailing in the air, and she was going, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" And that made me even more mad, because I didn't want to draw attention to what had just happened, and that was not helping. So I spun on my heels and I stomped my way home, and every time my boot pounded in the pavement, I thought, I wonder what my mom's going to say when she finds out about this. And every scenario ended with her grounding me, yelling at me, or both. And I thought, well, maybe I don't even have to tell her about this. But I'd have to get my sister to agree. And so I looked over my shoulder to see her progress taking the long way home. And she had made it to the bottom of this path, and she was about to head down the steep hill, and she was easy to spot because she was still doing, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And I thought, nope, the best I could hope for is my mom would take pity on me for having nearly fallen to my death. And then I thought, oh, maybe if I'm more mad than she is, she'll forget to get mad at me. So with that logic, I stomped my way to the house, slammed the door for good measure, and my startled mother came running, exclaiming, "What happened?" Only to find me kicking off my boots and throwing my coat in the closet and going, "I fell off the bluff," I sputtered. And she had this moment where she couldn't quite decide what expression she should have for such an occasion. Horror, humor, gratitude, and I think she was tempted to not believe me because the next thing she said was, "What do you mean you fell?" And then before I could answer, my sister came flying in the door. "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" And with that, my mom did a quick check for blood and broken bones, only to find a few scrapes. And she slapped on some mercurochrome and bandages and sent me back outside to play. So that day I learned when looking for a new route, shorter isn't necessarily better. And although I don't know the source of the voice that said, "Go with it," when I was about to fall, I do know that as I ran outside to play until those streetlights came on, it was my mom's voice echoing in my ears. "Stay off the